For me, the most satisfying feedback that I got from all of that was when this vice president from voestalpine came back to me and said, Hannes, thank you so much. We would have never found this company without you guys. We understand our ecosystem. We can find the right companies. And talking about technology, talking about innovation and new research and development, all good. But I think there's a lot of potential synergy that you can actually raise by more collaboration if more companies would work together across lines.
Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About Tech, brought to you by Venionaire Capital, the entrepreneurial partners. Today with me here in our podcast is Hannes Hunschofsky, the Managing Director of the Vienna office of the European Institute of Innovation and Technology Manufacturing. Welcome, Hannes.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the invitation. I'm happy to be here, Berthold. Thank you.
It's amazing to have an office of the EIT Manufacturing here in Vienna. Headquartered, you are in Paris.
Correct.
And with different locations across Europe.
Correct. We are in San Sebastian and in Athens and in Milan and in Darmstadt and Gothenburg.
So you cover a vast majority of the neighboring countries, I would assume.
I'm covering actually 7 countries, of which 6 of them are really what we call risk countries, which are still manufacturing development countries, which is Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Slovenia, Croatia, and Serbia, and of course, Austria.
Very cool. Your background has been extremely international. You're originally from Austria, but then your career developed around the globe. Tell us a bit about your background.
Sure, happy to do so. Originally Tyrolean, which you don't hear when I speak English, but born and raised near Innsbruck, and formal education in mechanical engineering. Afterwards, studied business at the University of Innsbruck, and started working for a company that was called Jenbacher Energy Systems, which was part of the GE Power organization. So quite, big corporate structures. And there I grew fairly quickly from research engineer all the way up to VP sales and marketing. And somebody had the idea that it would be good to go to the United States because we were not represented in the United States. And so they asked me if I'm interested. And in 1993, I decided to do that. And I moved to Boston, Massachusetts, and I started building Jenbacher Energy System as part of GE Power in the United States. Did that for a few years, and then I got a call from a friend of mine who was meeting with the CEO of Herbiger Compression Technology if I would be interested to work for Herbiger in the US. And I said, well, that very much depends. If they are in Detroit, no thank you. If they are at a nice place, maybe yes. And he said, well, they are in Florida. So at that point, I was married to an American. That's the reason why I didn't come back to Europe anymore. And I already had my firstborn son. And so the answer was Florida. My wife said, yeah, why not Florida? And so we were looking, good places to live and looking for good schools for the boys. And so we moved to Florida in 1999. And I was working for Herbiger for 20 years, first as managing director of the unit in Florida. Then I had all of the United States, including all those facilities in Ohio and Texas and everywhere and Latin America. Then I was very successful. And so they asked me if I could do that, run all the operations worldwide. And so we had plans in 2 locations in China and 2 locations in India. We had plans in Germany, Czech Republic, Sweden, obviously here in Austria. And I did that for several years, which was, extremely exhausting. A lot of flying, a lot of being away from home. And then they even got me into a CEO position of a division. And I did that for 3 years until 2020. And at that point, I decided it's enough. I'm going to retire. And when I had that, or made that decision, when I had this idea, I was still working with a professor at the Technical University in Vienna on a research project. So I was here at the Technical University a lot. And I met the vice rector for research, which was Johannes Fröhlich back then, just for a cup of coffee at the Café Mozart here in Vienna. And he said, we are getting this EIT Manufacturing here to Vienna, and we need somebody to run it, and they should be, they should have a large network in manufacturing. You would be really a good guy to run that. And I'm like, this is a political job, and it probably already spoken to somebody, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, just, throw in your CV and we will see. So at the end, they have chosen me out of 72 applicants or so. Yeah, quite
Congrats.
extensive. Yeah, thank you. And for me, it was something completely new because I always came out of corporate structures, and this was a total startup, right? It was me and then my assistant, and then I think my communication manager was number 3 or 4. So it was slowly growing. But we had to build up this organization that is focused on supporting manufacturing companies, from small startups to large corporations, in bringing in new innovation and new technology, and supporting them. So we are not delivering new ideas. We are networking. We have an ecosystem. We are supporting them also financially, partially, and in the last 5 years, we have grown that business quite substantially. We have 32 employees now. We are speaking 18 languages in mother tongue quality. And we have established ourselves because, 5 years ago, if you asked somebody about EIT Manufacturing, they said, who is that? What the hell, right? But now we have some standing. We have 3 different ministries that are supporting us, also financially. We have support from the Vienna Business Agency, from Standort Agentur Tirol, and others. Mm-hmm. And so we are making calls for innovation projects. We are supporting startups, trying to get them access to market, access to tech, access to finance. And very similar to the things that you're doing, just you're doing it for all companies, and we're just doing it for manufacturing companies. And so we are extremely excited about, we are actually carried by our partners, meaning our partners are our shareholders, so to speak, in the General Assembly. And here in Austria, we have some really exciting partners, from Magna to voestalpine to Technical University Vienna, and so on. And
plenty of hidden champions, world market leading SMEs, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are working on more of those. I don't know why Herbig is not a member yet, but
so guys from Herbig, if you're watching this, please join EIT Manufacturing. We'd highly appreciate.
Yeah, it would be a great opportunity for you guys. Also, MIBA, for example, would be a great opportunity. Company that I very much like. Anyway, so just to give you an example of what kind of services that we provide, we had a program called Booster Bridge, which is for large corporations. We are looking to bring them together with new tech companies, startups. And we had voestalpine that came to us and asked us if we can find tech companies that could actually evaluate or have a model or a computer model for them to find out where the CO2 emissions are on the entire supply chain. So from getting the ore out of the mountain to the finished part at Volkswagen.
So
And
identifying where the most CO2 emissions happen.
exactly, because they said if we want to spend money, we want to have a lever, right? We don't want to save, 50% on 3%. We want to,
Right.
really, better understand where we have the biggest lever, and then go there and try to get improvements there.
Well, in management, it's all about the balance between effectivity and efficiency, right?
Sure.
So you need to do the right things to achieve the right targets.
Yeah, and they were always focusing on bringing down the emissions in their own plants.
Mhm.
But what are the emissions before that, and what are the emissions after that, right? So it needs to be balanced, and they needed to know and better understand where all those emissions are actually
Are you
produced
allowed
from.
to say in which part of the supply chain the most emissions happen?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No, I'm not. That's
But not within the
that's their
plants, I
business.
assume.
Not exclusively in the plants, right? So what we did was we were with our network, as we said, we have 6 different locations all over Europe. We were looking for startups or technology company, could also be an SME,
Mhm.
that had a technology that would help them. We actually came up with a list of 12 companies, and we did a pre-selection with them, and we reduced it to 3 companies. And those 3 companies did a pitch to them during a pitching contest, which we had in Milan, Italy. And after that, voestalpine decided to go with a company called Chain Trace out of Sweden.
Mhm.
And they are working together. They have innovation projects already ongoing. So they are collaborating on more things right now. But for me, the most satisfying feedback that I got from all of that, and I'm telling you that story because exactly because that determines who we are at EIT Manufacturing, was when this vice president from voestalpine came back to me and said, Hannes, thank you so much. We would have never found this company without you guys. And so for me, this is like we understand our ecosystem. We can find the right companies, and putting the right people together and create synergy is very important for us. That's why we had this year Manufacturing Day, which is our big conference in Vienna every year, under the motto Innovation Through Collaboration. And I think we are talking about technology, talking about innovation and new research and development, all good. But I think there's a lot of potential synergy that you can actually raise by more collaboration, if more companies would work together across lines, and not just in Austria or in Upper Austria or whatever, but really across lines, open up, then we could achieve a lot more. And unfortunately, so what I see with Magna and voestalpine, they are open for that. Open innovation for them is daily bread, so to speak. But 99% of all companies, manufacturing companies in Austria, are SMEs. And the SMEs are not that open. And I'm talking particularly about the medium-sized companies, where you have an ownership, maybe 200, 300 employees. They are just not open for that. And we really work hard to win them over, to open themselves up a little bit and work across borderlines.
Do you think they're not open, or are they not ready yet? Meaning, like, they don't know yet how to get value, ROI, out of collaboration with startups, and how EIT could facilitate to generate such ROI on innovation activities from outside? Because I would assume those hidden champions are very, very innovative with their own research in-house, right? They have capabilities, right, that make them European or world market leading SMEs. So why should they look outside of the box? Why should they think of a new ROI for them? What would such ROI be?
Well, first of all, you are absolutely right. They have brilliant research and development departments that have brought them to the point where they are now. The question is, will they bring them to the point where they need to be in 10 years? Because with the collaboration, you are also speeding up the opportunities that you create, right? And the protectionism of these departments, let nobody look into what we are doing, is probably hindering them more than helping them. That's one aspect. And another aspect is just that leadership in small and medium-sized companies are just in over their head with all the dynamic in the market, with the requirements coming from Brussels, with the new technologies, AI, call them whatever, coming in. They don't even know where to set priorities anymore. They don't have the necessary resources that actually can help them to do all of that. So if I give you an example, in the last 2-3 years, when we went to companies and talked about innovation, collaboration, and all the good things that we are trying to do, I got the feedback. Listen, Hannes, what you're telling us is all great, but our biggest problem right now is we don't have the talent. We need people, we need education, we need to bring them up, transfer that whole knowledge, because we have a lot of baby boomers retiring and we have nobody in the pipeline anymore.
Not enough Mint alumni.
Yeah, sure, absolutely not. And I'm probably not giving anything away, but Infineon in Carinthia, for example, they are always looking for good talent, and it's very difficult for them to still find people because they are already taking over, everything in Carinthia and Slovenia, and so it's very difficult for them to find the right people. Now, with the current economic crisis, that has changed a little bit, and cost saving and cost containment has become, again, very, very important to them. So that's the story. Now, just to go to a different topic.
If I may just ask on the talent question, is today, much faster and much easier and much cheaper than ever before, you can start a company yourself. And what I experience by working with founders in different degrees of maturity is I see brilliant people, right? Male, female, collaborating across borders, right? They study together at one university, but they come from different parts of the world sometimes, right? And that's actually good DNA to build a gigantic company and a big success story. These founders often tell me they have no interest in joining a corporate structure, right? They don't want to do what their dad and what their grandfather did, right? They want to build something on their own. They want to create something, right? Leave their own legacy footprints. Is this something that the SMEs have on the radar, that some of that talent could actually be addressed by working with startups?
The SMEs, not so much than the big corporates. When I talk to big corporates, the cooperation with startups or scale-ups is totally on their radar. And they are trying to bring them in, sometimes through acquisition, merger, whatever, right? Just to have that talent within the organization for new ideas, new products, new services, whatever they need. The SMEs are not out there. The SMEs are not out there looking for technology, not as much as I can tell. So they are rare and far apart.
Okay, great. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, I wanted to go into a little bit of a different angle. When I was working in the US, I have joined an organization called the National Association of Manufacturers for 12 years in their board. And that's kind of the Industriellen Vereinigung on steroids, right? There's thousands of companies.
Industrial association.
Right.
Yeah.
So Boeing and Caterpillar and Cummins and all the big companies are in there. And how I got to the point that I tried to influence through that organization to the needs that I have as an organization is lobbying, right? Clearly something that is not well received in Europe. In the US, it's very normal.
But I do feel that in Europe, I would say a fair way of lobbyism is getting really professional, right? And is really getting perceived very positively from politics, as they need to learn about innovation cycles, developments in the markets, dynamics in markets, right? Obviously,
from
right?
the political establishment, no question.
This
But in
makes a lot of sense.
society, lobbying sounds still something that you shouldn't do or avoid in Europe. That's at least my feeling.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what it is actually, right?
Yes.
So lobbyism usually is something really simple and not harmful, right? It's basically companies speaking with politicians, helping them to understand how the market really functions, where the real pain points are, and this helps them to understand that better, and therefore they can actually write better laws, right? And maybe deregulate or regulate where it's necessary, rather than just doing something and fishing in the dark.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there I can tell you a story. So when I came for EMBach Energy System GE Power to Boston, Massachusetts, I met with a lawyer. His name is Jerry Doherty. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago. And he was a nice old man, and I was in my early 30s. So he's like, let's talk, how you doing and everything. And I don't know, maybe it was the second or the third time we were meeting. I was feeling comfortable enough to tell him that I'm not very happy with the US market, because our point of sales was to bring the emissions down of those power plants, right? Lowest emissions possible. But there was no regulation in the US to do so. And of course, the American competitors created power plants that had much higher emissions and were much, much cheaper. They needed less technology behind that. And he listened to me, and my complaints for a while. And then he looked at me, and that was a jaw-dropping moment for me in my development. And he looked at me and said, "Well, then let's change the law." And he meant that. So he helped me actually with the Department of Environmental Protection to make our emission standard what's called BAT, Best Available Technology. And so at least every government entity who bought a power plant like that had to go with the best available technology, which was us. And this is how we really had a good entrance into the market.
Which administration was that in the US that brought this best available technology into policy? Was it Clinton?
It definitely was under Clinton, because it was in the early 90s when I was there.
I'm not surprised.
But
I mean, he's
I'm
still
not
active.
sure if it wasn't before that. I'm not sure it wasn't before that established already. But it was definitely something that helped us to conquer the market.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. We're big fans of Clinton Foundation. We collaborate with them at World Venture Forum, as they are very active in climate ecosystem. And CGI, their main event around the United Nations General Assembly every September, I highly recommend. If you get to buy a ticket, do that. It's an incredible event and really mind-blowing minds, right? And inputs that you can receive there.
Where do they have those usually?
In New York. In New York City. It's always around the United Nations General Assembly, the UNGA, right, as they call it. There is this side event, which is CGI, Clinton Global Initiative, which is their global empowerment of any activities in climate, from startups that commit to action towards, large corporates, Hollywood stars, right, teaming up for, a project in Africa, India, North America, South America, Europe, Asia, doesn't matter, right? And what CGI does is just to accelerate that and enrich it with a better network, right? They're fueling, right, and helping to get you more successful faster, right, with a higher probability successful. A little bit like EIT Manufacturing, right? This is what you do on the startup side. You provide an ecosystem that increases the chances for success, if I understand you correctly.
Absolutely, right? That's our main task. I will watch out for that. Thank you. I haven't heard about that before.
I was just attending the first time last year, and I can really recommend it. And like I said, we have a good partnership with World Venture Forum, with the Clinton Foundation. We're very happy to partner with CGI. Looking a little bit into the future, What do you see as, the major challenges? Is it around the supply chain example that you brought, right? Is it around CO2 emissions? Is it about less dependencies, nearshoring? What is the big thing?
I'm not going to make myself popular in Europe, but when I talk to my folks in the US and they complain about the bureaucracy that they have in the US, I tell them, go a year to Europe. It's healing. The requests and the requirements and the demand coming from Brussels through the national, law and system that it needs to go through is overwhelming, particularly for SMEs, right? They don't have the resources. So a reduction of bureaucracy is, in my opinion, very on the very top of the list of things we need to do to become more successful with our organizations.
There was a clear policy recommendation by Mario Draghi's report of, over 100 regulations that are slowing down innovation in Europe.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think his voice was heard, right? And now the union is working on improving those processes. I hope also in your sector.
I hope so too. I haven't seen a lot of signals yet, but let's hope that this comes through, because I think that's extremely important. And with manufacturing companies, and we have published several papers and now a book chapter about startups in manufacturing. They have different requests and requirements and challenges, because it's very capital intensive. If you invest into a startup that is creating an app, great for you. What do you need? 3 laptops and 3 people, and that's it, right? But if you need to invest into heavy machinery, into supply chains, into manufacturing buildings, et cetera, that's not that easy. And that's a really big challenge.
Well, we have seen that there was a big project in Scandinavia to build a European production at the forefront of technologies, right, for batteries, and they got into trouble. I just read today in the news there's some bidders and some people working on recovering this. So I'm sure there will be some news coming, and there is hope that manufacturing in Europe lives up to its great times back again.
I certainly do hope so, because we were leading in manufacturing technology over decades, and we gave that all up to our partners in the East and West, China and the United States. And I think we should, with all the brain pool we have, and I'm working together not only with Technical University Vienna, but also Technical University Prague and Stuba, so Technical University in Bratislava. This is a huge brain pool. These are highly intelligent people doing a lot of research, having a lot of solutions that never make it to the market. Now let's question why that is happening. But I don't understand why. I was just in the hospital for surgery, and they had a robot there, and they had other technologies there, and all of that comes from the United States. And my question is, why are we not producing that here? Because why don't we have those ideas in Europe and could build a market here? Now, capital market, different story. Can discuss that for hours.
I would boldly say a lot of that stuff is invented in Europe, right? It's just made big on other places in the world. And if we collaborate more to innovate, means we bring products really in the market and manufacture here in Europe, then I do believe we do have great times ahead. It was a pleasure having you, Hannes.
Thank you so much.
I hope we got you guys curious, and I hope you guys will subscribe to our channel and tune in for the next episode.
Thank you very much.